Welcome, and thank you for putting your hope, faith, trust, and a bit of your money in Rags to Riches Business in a Box Do-It-Yourself Kit. Well, not exactly do-it-yourself, since I have decided to go ahead and do these videos for y'all, where I'm going to be covering exactly the same things I cover with anyone who comes to the ranch for the embedded program. Of course, minus the one-on-one feedback. But I'm going to walk you through the entire program like I would walk them through, give you my feedback on each one of the webinars that you watch, and walk through the forms that you have in front of you in your manual, and that you also have available to you to download so you can easily change the documents. So let's get started. First of all, I divide a company, any company that you are running, into 4 areas. That is marketing, the cleaning process, which of course would depend upon what company you're running, but in our residential cleaning service industry, we have marketing, cleaning process, employees, and of course, finances. You need to find homes to clean. You need to have a good way to clean them with efficiency and great quality, so that you can make some money, which brings you to finances, and of course, the product you're selling is your employees, so that's probably number 1. As I said, you have in front of you a hard copy manual of every form we're going to go through, but every one of them is available to you online. Everything is Excel spreadsheets or Word, so it's very easy to make it your own. Put your own logo on it, put your own phone number on it, and it's yours. And there are 2 approaches that I want to go through as far as actually doing business in a box. One is to do it like the embedded program. Spend 3 full days from 7 in the morning until 7 at night and watch all about 45 hours of videos and listen to me and go through the entire process, maybe about 40 hours. Watch everything as you're going through it, get a calendar out and schedule everything on your calendar, and I will tell you what to schedule when. That's a good way to do it because now you see all the pieces of the entire program and you don't go, oh gosh, I wish I would have picked that up earlier. The other way to do it is, of course, to go through one segment at a time, implement that segment, get it in place, and then do the next segment. It depends upon your time, upon your schedule, upon your commitment level. But we're going to get started. In order to determine where you want to maybe put all of your time and efforts, I would suggest that you fill out your L ranking sheet first as the first thing you do. An L ranking sheet is a common terminology at Rags to Riches. We always say, don't fail to ail, which means because if you fail to ail, you will fail. What it means is action item list. Everything for your goal is supported by an action item list, the things you need to do to hit that goal. To have a goal without an action item list is having a dream that you never turn into a goal. Goals become reality. But without dreams, you have no goals. They're all good things, but they all have to be implemented. Put in on Excel, in the ranking column, what you feel the point your company is at with each one of these items. Even if you're a startup, let's go through this process so you know what we're working with. If it's a 1, you give it a 1 if it does not exist in your company. If it is, for example, an employee handbook, you don't have one, make it a 1. If it exists but it's not used or implemented, like you have an employee handbook because you bought one from another consultant, but it's up on a shelf, you never really ever show it to any of your employees, give it a 2. If it exists and is used but not consistently, for example, you have an employee handbook, you give it to the people, you don't read it with them, you don't really have an absenteeism policy, you might break it, nobody knows what's in that handbook. I would say it exists, but it's not consistently implemented, that's a 3. If you exist, but it needs a little tweaking, like maybe your absenteeism policy is pretty generic and it doesn't really tell people how many days they can have, then I would make it a 4. And if it's perfect, it's absolutely there. You want to leave it alone. Sorry, there's a typo. But you want to leave it alone. So rank each one of these categories. When you get done ranking them in sheet 1, then I want you to copy those rankings, the entire column, I want you to go over to sheet 2. Sheet 2 needs to be in alphabetical order. If the items are all not in alphabetical order, then you need to alphabetize the key factor column. Then you can paste in your rankings and it will match everything just like you have it here. When you get done with that, I want you to sort one more time by the key factor code, which is rather than the item. When you go in there, they need to be sorted alphabetically by item in sheet 2. Drop in your rankings. Then resort them again by key factor. Then if you want to, you can resort them again 1 through 5 by each key factor, the cleaning process, the employee, the marketing, and the finance. But now you can take a look at all your ones, and where you have the strongest number of ones is the area you want to start in. If you have a lot of ones, then start with the cleaning process, because until you have a good product and service to sell, it doesn't do any good to market it. However, halfway through that process, you want to start marketing, because now if you've got good people, you can't keep them if you don't have any homes for them to clean. Those two should go hand in hand, but work your ones first. So again, you're going to work with cleaning process, marketing, employees, and finance. We're not going to cover a lot about finance because if that's where a lot of your ones are, but the other ones are 1s and 2s, fix the other areas first, because we automatically will get to finances, but the one thing you have to do on finances is a wall chart, so we're going to cover that right away. And I want you to watch this webinar, which is entitled Embracing Change. When you come, please put me on pause, and when you come back, we will continue. Thank you. The reason I wanted to have you all watch that was a lot of you are going to be embracing a lot of change if you're going to follow our model. And one of the very first things that will be a huge change for anybody who's consistently doing in-home quotes, will be selling on the phone. I believe strongly in my model and I believe in selling on the phone. I never once, well, I did one. I did one in-home quote in all the years that I was in business, which was 20 years, and we had 754 repeat clients. We cleaned 95 homes a day. I did not meet those people. As a matter of fact, it was my dream to not know who my clients were, and I attained that dream. You can't possibly think Bill Gates or Michael Dell knows their clients unless they're giving them $4 billion a year or more, and nobody's giving me that. So my goal was to have my company self-sustaining. The way you get there is by selling on the phone. My other goal was to grow my company rapidly. I did a lot of this by networking events. You can't network in the evening and get more clients getting your phone ringing, prospects, meeting them at networking events. They call you the next day, your phone rings. If you're all bidding a home, you're not meeting anybody, and if that person doesn't buy you, that was a wasted evening. If you're not sure about what you feel about this, I want you to read what Karen Bickford had to say, because Karen is definitely dig those heels in and has been at it for a long time. I also want you to take a moment to listen to Ashley Windsor, who did this, who was in business for 3 years and did in-home quotes only, and actually shook when I taught her how to do this. I had her learn it, but I said, you don't have to do it. I just want you to know how. Now she shakes at the thought of an in-home quote. You might want to listen to Ashley. She had 28 clients when I got her after 3 years of using other consultants. And today, about 2.5 years later, she has 212 repeat clients, I think. She's somewhere around there, 202, 204, but over 200. Great success with it. Sharon Vaughn, after 20 or 25 years, it'll say in the webinar of doing business, and she's my age, or was my age. I sadly say Sharon passed away a year and a half ago. But she would be honored to know that she is still having an impact, and I've talked to her husband about this, on cleaning service owners to start selling on the phone and saving time. She said they should have done that 25 years ago. So watch these 2 webinars if you don't believe in it. If you do, then move right on to how to do it. So the next thing I want you to do is copy and paste accurate pricing, the link for accurate pricing, quoting, and selling on the phone. As you go through this, if you go to your manual, everything will be in your manual that supports accurate pricing, quoting, and selling on the phone. So go ahead and page through that. You can follow the telephone script I go through, which is the repeat inbound. And when we're done with that, when you're done with that, come on back, put me on pause, and we're going to talk a little more detail about quoting and selling on the phone. Thanks. Okay, I hope you understood all that. I'm going to go over a couple of highlighted areas. Number one, if you go past the sales scripts now, the last thing you will have in there is the pricing matrices. And the pricing matrices are based on the square footage of the home and the frequency of the visits. But it's also how much, number one, triggered by how much do you want to make per hour, which means you need to call your competitors, and we're going to talk about this under marketing, and find out what you want to charge per hour. But that's why I'm saying to you, some of these things go hand in hand. You want to charge market value. Then if you go online and you download pricing matrix, you will have an Excel spreadsheet that automatically tabulates for you. So you put in on the first line how much money you want to charge. The one in your book is charging $30 per hour. You can make it $35 and it will automatically retabulate everything. The other thing that people have questions about is square footage. And if you go to villow.com, that's V as in Victor, ILLOW.com, you will be able to look up the square footage of a home. It will give you the square footage, and it will give you how much that home is worth, which is kind of nice to know when you're talking to a prospect. Of course, it will also tell you how big their mortgage is and how little money they might have. But it doesn't give you mortgages, but it does give you value of homes and the square footage. So you can ask the client if they want to give you the square footage. If they don't, you just might... You can still look it up by getting their address, and that's why I believe I say in the quote that you heard, or I might not, but in the one in the book it says, so that we can verify your square footage, please give us your address. I'm hoping it says that. If it doesn't, and I'll need to check that before I do the next video, so please forgive me. But if it doesn't start out saying, if you can give me your address, I can check the square footage of your home, because that's what we use to base our pricing, they will give you the address. Then you just look at what the price is. If it's weekly and it's under 1,000 square feet and it's you're charging $30 an hour, which is very low, by the way, it would be $62 per visit. In Texas and one other state, I can't remember which one it is, you do need to charge sales taxes, so we have put a column there where you can vary your sales taxes. So this is how you do this pricing matrix. Then there is an additional pricing matrix that you will want to pull up also and download. That's called additional pricing matrix. And what it does is gives you prices per square footage for task accomplished. It is, again, it tells you how much time can be spent on each one of the tasks based on the square footage, and then based on what you're trying to charge, so you want to change the price on that one per hour as well. It will tell you how much money to charge. If you pull that down, it is another calculated, so you can put in a 1 for the things they want, and it will automatically give you a total price. You will then add that on to our one-time price, if they are a one-time client. So you need both the additional task and the pricing matrix at your price in front of you when you're going to price something. Next, I want to walk a little bit through the welcome package. The customer data sheet is a tool that I use to have a customer re-verify what they're going to what they want done in their home. I do on the phone get items that I will need, like their phone numbers. I make sure I get their home number, their cell phone number, their work number of both the husband and wife. If they ask me why I need so many, I say, because if we go in your house, and this did happen to us, and we smell a fire, we want to be able to get a hold of somebody. Actually, there was a fire in an attic, and we were quite blessed by this because it was the home of the radio celebrity we used to do our radio ads. So needless to say, she loved us and talked about us forever for weeks because we saved her home. But we had a hard time finding them because she's on the radio, so I was very grateful we had his number. At work, actually, because he wasn't answering his cell phone. So you want to get everything filled out. I would get that on the phone. I would get access to their home on the phone. The rest of it you can just send to them. And if you use the periodic tasks as a sales tool, the second page asks them to choose their tasks. As I said on the webinar, if they don't give you any, then I wouldn't call them to get it. I want to make sure you know how this works and why people like it so much. It's because the first time in, if they're weekly or bi-weekly, which means you have to follow that script to a T, because that's the first thing you have to ask, or they're going to be on to you. If they don't know if it's going to make any difference if they say repeat or one time, why wouldn't they say that? Why would they lie? I'm sorry. If they say, well, if I'm happy I'll go repeat, then I say, well, then we'll start with the one-time price, and after your second cleaning, if you come back within 2 weeks, and go repeat, I will go ahead and kick you back the difference between the one-time and the repeat price. So at least you've gotten them twice, and you were able to get around anybody sticking it to you. So at the first cleaning, if they're going to be repeat, weekly or bi-weekly only, if they're less frequently, the tasks are available, but they have to pay for them. You will do one task at each visit, starting at the second visit. The first visit, you just simply clean that house because it's going to take you a little bit longer to get rid of all the buildup in the bathrooms, the soap scum, the mold, in the kitchens, items like this. The dusting will take longer. You will never lose money. You might break even. But as I think I said in the webinar, keep in mind, if you clean a client at $100 a week, which we did for 20 years, that client, run the numbers, has given you $100,000. What you probably would charge them more the first time in would maybe be a couple $100. You want to give up $200 and not win that bid and give up do you want to give up $100,000 for that lousy little $200? I consider it my cost of advertising, and besides that, I'm not staying in there forever. I'm doing the basic clean. The second time in, I will start the first task. Maybe it's wet wiping the baseboards if that's what they choose. We do half of them and then we do the other half. But the rest of the house is now more like a wipe down because you got it repeat. Remember, you give them something and at the end of a year, because you've done these things every 4 months, your homes will be cleaner than your competitors, and they'll know that. If you don't wet wipe baseboards at least every 4 months, in a year they start looking a little dingy, even though you've dusted them every time. We dust and then wet wipe. Our homes are very clean. Not as clean as yours at the end of the first clean because we don't do a deep clean. But after 3 months, our homes are starting to become cleaner than yours. Keep that in mind. The client loves it. That you can advertise everywhere. Free periodic task with weekly and bi-weekly service. Somebody across the street from you uses a competitor, not that happy with their cleaning that day. You put your flyer in their door when you're cleaning your house, and the house you're cleaning, and they get it, and they go in, and they go, and then they look at the refrigerator. They see free task included refrigerators. They look at their refrigerator and go, oh my God, this hasn't been cleaned in years. The next day they call their cleaning service and say, hey, catch the refrigerator next time. And they say, fine, that'll be an extra $40, $50. Believe me, this woman's going to call you. It's your edge on the competitor. To say you have better quality, to say you're more dependable, all that's pie in the sky, especially to people who have been around the block with cleaning services before. But what's reality is no first time in charge, repeat tasks, keep your house great, get things done you've never had done before. That will outsell the competitor. And then the coup de grace, you tell them all on the phone. You're not going to their house and taking up their valuable time. If they had that much time, they'd clean their homes themselves. So that's my concept on the periodic tasks. Policies of the company should be covered, because especially things like put the needles away so you don't run into a workers' comp situation, one of your employees getting stabbed because they're putting them in a plastic bag instead of a hard container. Make them put their paraphernalia away so you don't walk in and get embarrassed with illegal things sitting out. Tell them what you want, but also what they're going to get, which is you will fix things as long as they let you know what happened. And start the whole thing out with a welcome letter, a very nice letter saying thanks for coming. If you do other ancillary services like power washing, steam clean carpets, make sure you put them in here so they know that you do that. And then, of course, make sure you give them a list of your routine tasks, because they need to know what you do. They heard what they heard on the phone because that's what they wanted to hear. But you need routine tasks so they know exactly what you do, and they aren't expecting more. And then, of course, you should give them a way to get back to you, which is the customer response card. Last, I want to talk about there should be a periodic task log in your book. I believe I put it in right after this welcome package. You need some way to keep track of what these people are what tasks they're doing each time. So when you get the response back from the customer, I write in there or cross off what they didn't choose, leave the other ones there. Then there's boxes there, and your people will date and initial each time they do something. So they start at the top and go to the bottom, and don't just do their favorite one each time. I use a customer client file for all of my clients. To put this in the computer would be so time consuming, just let them drop it in. I know we're in a high-tech world, but I would never not have a customer file, because why pull the map every time if it's a special map? Pull that file and let them go, and this is how I kept track of the periodic tasks. Before I would file them away, or who was ever filing them, we would open up that file. On the left-hand side was the task sheet. If there were tasks written down because they did return it, we made sure that that team did it, because that is their weakest niche. And do remember, I had a boss once who said, inspect what you suspect and suspect everything. Don't do it negatively. They don't have to see you're doing that. When you file it away, just see whether or not they logged the task. So when that client calls up that week and says, what did they do? You can pull the file and say, they wet wiped the baseboards, without having to bother the team or anybody else. And believe me, when you wet wipe baseboards 3-4 times a year, they can't tell that they were wet wiped. That's a good thing. But you need the right answer. Then the last thing I want to talk about is, that's it, folks. So we're going to break here. What I really want you to do, though, is go on to the internet and pull up the budget calculator, and you can do that here by just copying and pasting this link into the Success Made It Easy into your browser, and it will bring up our page with the budget calculator. Download that, leave it on your laptop, and we're going to proceed with that when you come back. I do want you to, you know what? I think I have enough time to do that now. Sorry. The budget calculator is a tool that we use to determine how much revenue you're going to bring in the door. Kind of a complicated little tool. It does calculate on its own. When you use it, make sure that you are on the first year. It carries the first, second, and third year, so you can see what you'll have after 3 years. The nice thing about it is when you do your sales goal, and let's say you want to sell 50 clients next year and they're all worth $300, that's not $3,000, I'm sorry. That's not $150,000 in revenue, because they're prorated. What you sell in January, you get for 12 months, so 24 payments. But what you sell in December of next year, you only get 1 month of payments, a couple $100. So you have to calculate that when you're doing your budget and not think you have money you do not have, and decide to spend too much money that you don't have. So it would be nice to be able to do your advertising budget based on your estimated income for that month. And if you prorate it, you'll know your estimated income if you plan to say, let's say sell 1 net sale per week. The only thing I want you to do on the finance side right now is to have a goal. You need an annual goal. Actually, we break it down by the week, and we put it on a wall chart. If you go to the next item in your book, you will see a wall chart. It might be it's right before the daily activity log. It shows you how to use a wall chart. The first column has the date. Then I have weekly, every other week, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Those are sales. You need to determine how many sales you want to make a week. Once you figure out what you sold that week and what you lost that week, what net number do you want to add to the bottom line? I say 1 net sale per week is simple to do. Not simple, but it's very doable to do. If you do that, and you do that for 5 years, you will be $1 million company in 5 years, probably 1.2 million. So that's a good realistic goal. If you want to be a $2 million company, which you could be, you need to do 2 per week. Very difficult to hit, but people have done it. So realistically, I have all of my clients at 1 a week unless I see something in them that's very unusual or they're coming to me with lots of clients that we can work. Then sometimes I have them set 2. But they're going to have to work 60, 70 hours a week, so you also need to think about that. I'm saying 45, 50 hours a week for this first year to hit 52 net clients at the end of the year, or to add that to your bottom line, whatever you have now. This particular company came into this month when they started the wall chart on January 12th with 90 repeat clients. On January 12th, they added an every other weeker. They didn't lose anybody, so they had a net gain of +1. If you add that to the 90, they had a total of 91. Their goal was 90, so they're up 1 against plan. The next day, they lost 1, so their net was a -1, putting them back at 90. They're still at 0. You go through every single day. If you want to make this wall chart simpler, just make it sales cancels. You don't need to know if it's weekly every other week. You can do it that way. But you do need something up there. Key here is you notice that their goal changes. This company's goal is 1 net per week. So Wednesday was the 12th, Thursday, Friday. On Friday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. No, must have been Tuesday, Friday. Wednesday, Thursday, on Friday, they added 1 on. Their 90 goal went up to 91. I always added it on Fridays because I wanted to always be ahead of my goal, and that gave me 4 days to hit it, rather than adding it on Monday and being behind for 4 days. Then you keep that 91 for another week, and it becomes 92 on the next Friday. You keep on doing that forever, every single week. At the end of the year, you'll have 52 more sales there. You put that wall chart someplace where it's big and huge, and everybody in your office, including you, it's the first thing they see when they walk in the door. If you're in your home, put it wherever the supplies area is, wherever you all end up going. I would prefer, or if you have a little office, put it in your office. If they come, they should be coming in your office once a week for your one-on-ones. You'll go over this then too. Ultimately, you want to tie your staff, your internal staff, your external staff, your cleaners to that wall board. If you hit your numbers, they get something as well. That's when you're all having synergy going and you're all on the same team. Most of my clients say the best thing they've learned from me is this wall chart, and they all have it. They all know their numbers. As soon as I call them, they can tell me where they're at. This is your scorecard, folks. Now you can go on to, well, now that we have some houses, we've sold them, we haven't quite figured out how to get the phone to ring yet, but we know when it does how we're going to sell them. We need some people to clean these houses, and that's key to your success. So the next thing I would like you to do as we move into the second round here, which is employees, is recruiting, interviewing, and hiring. Please copy and paste this link into your browser. And when you come back, we're going to talk about the following 3 items in detail. You will also, when you come back, you will also want to put in disc 2 of your Business in the Box guidebook. Thank you. I hope you're enjoying yourself, and I'll see you soon.